celebrating the fifth day. I'm super excited to announce the official launch of this event under the theme of Smart City as a Strategic Level, which is an event organized in collaboration with the IEEE Smart City community and the Smart City Ambassadors program, and also LASTIMI Laboratory from Morocco. So this event is part of the IEEE Smart Cities Week 2022, a worldwide event series dedicated to both exciting new technologies and applications and expert perspectives on current and future smart city solutions. Comprises multiple local events worldwide organized by the IEEE Smart Cities Ambassador. So I think it's also a great opportunity to share and discuss with our keynote speakers about main smart city challenges and how technology can help us to build better cities. Our objective from this event is to promote the idea of how smart city concept can help us to build better cities by integrating technological solutions that can help us to improve the quality of life, to identify different smart city challenges, and develop a broader vision and understand the process of building smart city strategies. So today I'm more than happy to welcome Professor Jonathan, which is an international smart city author and speaker, and also so pleased to have with me Professor Madame Fatima from Higher School of Technology and LASTIMI Laboratory from Morocco, and Iman Daha, which is from the same laboratory with the LASTIMI Laboratory and Higher School of Technology, which will be the moderator of the event and our sessions. So just before leaving the floor to Professor Madame Fatima to give his word and Iman after, let me just share with you the official IEEE Promotion Smart City video. Thank you.
No, we cannot hear the voice.
Perfect. I'm just in love with this video and the music behind. So maybe I will give the floor to Professor Madam Fatima. The stage is yours. We cannot hear you, Madam Fatima.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everywhere. Donc, je commence, comme j'ai dit. Vous lancez, Adnane, mon speech in English?
Yes, so just a quick remark. Madam Fatima will give her speech in French. So if you don't mind, just so go ahead, Madam Fatima. The stage is yours, no problem.
Donc, you have my speech. You have my speech in English. You can. Tu peux le partager?
Yeah. Okay. Just a few seconds. I will share it with the audience just after your presentation. So you can present in French, and afterward I will share it with them. No worries.
Okay, thank you. Okay. D'accord. Donc, bonjour tout le monde, Monsieur le directeur, Monsieur le professeur Jonathan et Lucas, chers collègues, Mesdames et Messieurs les participants, bienvenue dans cette journée intéressante. Je suis très fière aujourd'hui qu'un doctorant de notre laboratoire, l'estimé ambassadeur des 3E Smart Cities, M. Dalhi, a pu organiser cette journée dans le cadre de la semaine des 3E Smart Cities 2022. Très honoré de la présence de deux intervenants d'une renommée internationale, le professeur Jonathan, c'est un expert, un grand expert Smart Cities, blockchain technology, emerging technology, data governance. Et le professeur Lucas Mora est un professeur d'innovation urbaine à l'école de commerce d'Édimbourg. Lucas a contribué dans l'avancement de la théorie et de la pratique dans le domaine de transition vers les villes intelligentes. Ses travaux ont été publiés dans les meilleures revues académiques. Les villes sont aujourd'hui plus que jamais conscientes de la valeur des nouvelles technologies pour développer des services efficaces et durables pour les citoyens, les visiteurs et les entreprises dans tous les domaines du territoire. Cette prise de conscience est basée sur l'inclusion de la technologie et une bonne compréhension du concept de ville intelligente comme levier stratégique de la formule socio-économique dans l'évolution de nos villes. Cette utilisation exponentielle de la technologie et l'émergence de différents outils visant à faciliter les interactions sociales entre les citoyens et les administrations locales a activé une nouvelle vision de la prestation des services de la ville en intégrant les citoyens locaux dans ce flux de communication directe continue. Nous voulons, à travers cette journée, d'initier le débat pour établir une feuille de route vers les villes marocaines intelligentes, créer des collaborations entre les chercheurs et les administrations locales. Comme membre de l'ASTIMI et habitant de la ville salée, je serai très honoré si je participe à ce chantier d'intégrer notre ville au programme IEEE Smart Cities. Bienvenue une autre fois dans cette journée et merci. Merci beaucoup. Je passe la parole à M. Dalhi.
Thank you, Professor Madam Fatima. Thank you for your message. Iman, the stage is yours. Yeah, go ahead. Iman, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me? We cannot hear you, Iman.
Hello?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, perfect.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Adnane and Professor Grouat for speech, and I thank everybody for being here and contributing to this webinar conference called IEEE Smart Cities Week event. The topic is Smart City as a strategic lever. I'm Professor Iman Dahabreti from LASTIMI, which is a laboratory of analysis system processing information and industrial management, which is location in Rabat, in the capital of Morocco. This research laboratory location is at the Higher School of Technology, Saleh, in University Mohammed V. The research field of our laboratory are IoT, smart city, industrial management, cybersecurity, 5G, etc. So now I will present the next session called Smart Cities Are a $1 Trillion Opportunity to Do Good by Professor Jonathan Reichental. So the Professor Jonathan, or the Dr. Jonathan, is a multiple award-winning technology and business leader whose career has spanned both the private and public sectors. He has been a senior software engineering manager, a director of technology innovation, and has served as chief information officer at both O'Reilly Media and the city of Palo Alto in California. Mr. Reichental is currently the founder of advisory investment and education firm in Human Future and also creates online education for LinkedIn Learning. He has written 3 books on the future of cities, like Smart Cities for Dummies, Exploring Smart Cities Activity Book for Kids, and Exploring Cities Bedtime Dreams. So, Mr. Jonathan, you have 15 minutes for your presentation. Thank you very much.
We cannot hear you, Mr. Jonathan.
Okay,
Mr. Jonathan?
Yeah, perfect.
Somebody,
Okay, it's right. It's okay
Yeah,
now.
perfect. We can hear you now.
yes.
I'm sharing my screen. You can share your screen. The stage is yours.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Adnan and everyone else. It's such a pleasure to be part of this event. I was enjoying the video at the beginning, and I was noticing all the great events I haven't been to all over the world. So hopefully I can join you in one of these very wonderful locations to talk about the future of our cities and thus the future of humanity. So I'm going to go ahead and share, and let's see if we can make sure this all works now. And here we go. You tell me if you can see. Give me the thumbs up if you can see my PowerPoint, yeah? Okay, the technology's
It's okay.
Thank you.
Can see it in clear. It's okay.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so going to spend a few minutes with you today sharing some perspectives on this very important event and topic, I should say. For me, this is a lot bigger than just cities. For me, this is about the future of the planet and the future of humanity. For me, this is a topic that represents the 21st century and beyond. And so sometimes people ask me, why am I so passionate? Why am I involved? Because I tell them I have a vision for a better world, and it's going to start and be very much reflected in our urban experiences. So this is a presentation about that, but I'm taking a particular angle on it, and the angle I'm taking is, you know, we can do work in our cities to make the quality of life better for everyone, and that's what drives most of us to do what we do. But it doesn't have to end there. It just doesn't have to be about doing good. It can also be about doing well, right? If there's an economic incentive too, then lots of innovators will participate, and we can have a good life and at the same time create a good life. So that's the thesis here. Now, as I talk through my time with you today, I want you to think of this question as I go through some of my content and make some of my remarks. You know, this is not a topic that most of us can sit back and just let others take the lead on. There's a good chance that if you're watching this at some point, you live in a city, or you will live in a city, or your children will live in a city. That is where your destiny lies, and you experience both the positives of an urban experience, but also you probably have something to say about the aspects of city life that perhaps are not at the level you would like them. And so because of that, you can have a voice, and each of us has the ability through our behaviors to influence the future of our cities and also the sustainability of our planet. These two are quite interrelated. What you're probably talking about all week is the very thing that gets me excited about this topic. The future belongs to cities. The 21st century will be the century of cities, and they've served us well largely. They are the most complicated of human inventions. And, you know, as somebody who has the great pleasure and honor to often be invited and to work with cities in every part of the world, I'm struck, of course, by often the beauty of cities, but also by the complexity. But mostly I'm amazed that they function as well as they do. You know, when you think about a mega city like Tokyo or Lagos or New York City, full of, 10, 15, 20, 25 million people with complicated transportation systems and water systems and energy systems and healthcare systems and so much more, and all seems to largely work. But I'm also a realist. I'm also someone who understands the world very well, and I get up close and personal to the challenges too. I know it's not all positive. I realize that we aren't perhaps distributing the opportunities of cities to as many people as we could, and not everybody is thriving in an urban environment. So we have a lot of work to do. You don't need to go far to know that one of the most visible aspects of challenges is how we move people, goods, and services around our urban landscape. Largely in the cities around the world, we've had a love affair with the automobile. And while it gives us and has given us exceptional freedoms, we are at a point now where the problems largely outweigh many of the advantages, whether it's the pollution that cars create, or the noise, or the accidents. We're not very good at driving as humans. I'm welcoming the future of autonomous vehicles, but humans are very bad at driving, and all this congestion often makes it easier to cycle or to walk between places. So we have problems like this. This is not an American phenomena or a phenomena of Bangkok or Melbourne, Australia. This is a problem that is universal around the planet. There are very few places that doesn't suffer from congestion issues. And our cities have created environments for hyper-consumerism, and that hyper-consumerism is generating a phenomenal means of production that, again, is providing us with a good life for so many billions of people. Not everybody yet, of course. But the exhaust from this hyper-consumerism has a price, has a very big price. It can take the form of poor air quality. The World Health Organization has data on this. They say that poor air quality kills directly or indirectly about 8 million people per year. That's a real number. That shouldn't happen. We've got to clean up the air, but also continue to have a good quality of life. And if some of us are unequal, if some of us don't get the opportunity to thrive, then none of us are equal, and all of us are yet to enjoy the benefits of a high quality of life in an urban context. These are problems that we can't walk away from. These are problems that we have to address head on and find good solutions. The future is clearly got a 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is our climate emergency. And so many people I speak to fully understand this, and the scientific consensus is such that we know now that the human behaviors are affecting the planet in a negative way, and much of that is created through our urban environments. But this is not a problem that we point to the future. We say 20, 30, 40 years from now, we begin to see the challenge. No, this is in front of our eyes, and this is happening right now. This is a picture of flooding, because in the climate crisis, there's more of everything that occurs that's disruptive. If there's a storm, the storm is bigger and faster. If there's rain, there's more rain. Where there's drought, there's more drought. And where there's flooding, there's more flooding. And so we have to address the climate crisis head on. We have the data now. We almost know everything we need to do, but we still, of course, need to innovate. There's still a lot we don't know how to do, but there's things we can do now. We understand the the problem and we understand many of the solutions. And those solutions are to be found in our urban environments. My experience with the climate emergency looks like this. This is actually in my backyard. You're seeing the great city of San Francisco in Northern California here. And I woke up one day a couple of years ago, and this is what it looked like during the day, and it didn't go away, and it got dark, and the next day it looked like this again. Our state was on fire because of the climate crisis, and you could see now directly with your own eyes how it was impacting our urban environment. This is a problem now, and it has to be solved together. But let's go down even to the local level. Let's go into the city. And here we see a picture of what a very typical city office looks like. This is pre-COVID, of course, and everyone's together. And, I know this for a fact, having done an unscientific survey, that most people don't enjoy this experience unless you're sitting on the other side of the counter and you're getting paid for providing the service. If you are the customer, the community member, this is not how you want to spend your day. And in so many cities and so many places in the world, we provide thousands of analog services that require people to come to a building, take a number, and spend several hours and not even be sure that they'll get the outcome they want. And this is all happening. This is happening in a world where this is the experience that people actually are expecting and are used to. So many times in our cities, we provide this level of service when our communities are increasingly expecting this experience. They want services to be self-service and fully digital, and the experiences to be quick and efficient, and you can complete them in one session or maybe at worst in 2 sessions, rather than having to drive to a building several times and fill out paperwork and know that maybe there'll be an error. So we have a great digital transformation opportunity in our cities. Now, the good news is this is, of course, happening. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I recognize, based on not only the visiting I've done to many communities in the world, but the actual work that I've done with my teams in delivering digital transformation in our communities, that this is underway. But there's so much to do. There's so much to do. And there's so much remarkable opportunity. In almost every aspect of delivering a city, we can and encourage, we want more innovation, because there's not enough. We don't have enough competition. We don't have enough ideas. It's getting better. The last 5 or 6 years have really seen a big difference. And entrepreneurs and all sorts of technologists and people in all sorts of roles are figuring out how they can play a role in building a business to reinvent a service or to provide a brand new way of delivering cities that delight community members. In fact, this is where we get to the heart of the opportunity. We can build these solutions so that we can create great cities, and it'll make a real difference in people's lives. But we can also provide an economic bonanza, an economic boom as a consequence. Frost & Sullivan, who are a very well-respected consulting firm, has done the analysis, and they project about a $2.45 trillion windfall for business opportunities to build highly digital, highly smart and sustainable communities by 2025. And that's, by the way, 2.45 trillion with a T. That's a lot of money. If your region is trying to think about, well, what are we going to do to create great jobs and great opportunity for all sorts of types of people, I would look at this. I would say, why can't we be leaders? If you are in South Africa, or if you're in Paris, or in Italy, or wherever you're calling in from, maybe in Bangalore in India, why can't you be the leaders in the technologies? And why can't you get a piece of that $2.5 trillion pie, that opportunity ahead? Now, we see some great things happening in our communities. I'm observing so many very original and inspiring projects in cities and in every part of the planet. I like this one in particular. This is Times Square in New York City. You can see on the left side how things have changed. As we look at the right side, the city was experimenting for a short period with some pedestrianization, and it was so successful that now they made it permanent. And we see this trend around the world where we are giving back our streets to people. Think about the last 100 years of the automobile. When the car came and we fell in love with it and we realized all the benefits, we started to build our cities around the automobile, right? Not around people. We stopped building it for people. We started building our cities for cars. And now we're left with an urban environment that often isn't conducive to placemaking, right? Where people can congregate and socialize and play and learn and be in open, healthy, clean air spaces with low noise and low chance of maybe being hurt in a car accident. And so we see this here, for example, in New York City happening already. By the way, on the right-hand side of this picture, when the Times Square was pedestrianized, accidents of all types dropped by 30%, a 30% reduction in accidents. That's real data. That's real progress. And so if we now fly from New York City, I'll take you right over to the beautiful city of lights, to the city of Paris. And here's the Champs-Élysées. This is how architects they see it now in the next few years. The plan has been signed off. The project is underway to make the center of Paris an urban garden, right? Where cars are not the dominant feature that creates all the noise and all the pollution, and it creates accidents and actually makes it humans be the secondary consideration, be the secondary priority. Let's make humans be the central, the primary part of our communities. And so this urban garden here that will begin in the Champs-Élysées and over time will stretch into the streets around this area. We'll have little areas that people can grow food, plants, vegetables, and fruits, and there'll be lots of trees, creating a urban canopy and an urban forest that is able to absorb some pollution and also reflect and reduce the heat and the heat islands we see in our cities. This tells us what's possible. This tells us what is possible. This is a few €100 million project, but it requires that investment. But that means there's also demand, which means there has to be suppliers, right, and entrepreneurs. And of course, when you improve an already popular and beautiful street like the Champs-Élysées, then more people will come, and the economic benefits will spread. Now, as you can tell, you know this for a fact, that as we build bigger cities in the world, we already have many in the region of 10, 15, 20 megacities now. I just couldn't remember the exact number, but we have I think it's over 30 now megacities. In fact, that I think of it, and these are cities over 10 million people. They're growing rapidly, and we're seeing this densification of urban areas, more people, more construction. That's actually good for the planet, believe it or not. It may feel unintuitive, but when we actually pack people into cities in a positive way, not a negative way, the utilization per capita is less than it is when people have large homes in the rural areas in terms of the impact on the planet. But our appetite for energy is not decreasing as a consequence of building cities. Of course, we need more energy, and the lesson over the last 200 years of rapid urbanization is that carbon energies like coal, gas, and oil have served us pretty good, but now as we've entered the 21st century, we have a really bad hangover. Harvesting this carbon from the earth has had significant consequences, including, most importantly, a climate crisis now that we are struggling to manage. But there's a good news story here. The need is to have abundant, clean energy, and the question is, can we provide that? And through innovation, continuous innovation, We're seeing now for the first time wind and solar be very effective in providing highly low cost, clean, abundant energy. Now, we can't make this transition overnight, and we certainly can't make it complete. There's no scenario in the near term where we can run our cities entirely on solar. We have to have a mix. But you can see here how the gigawatts of the carbon energies on the left are reducing, while the gigawatts on the right, the non-carbons, the renewables, excuse me, are continuing to increase. So we'll see this migration over the next few years and decades, creating massive economic opportunity to reinvent and redesign our cities to support solar, and primarily solar, because we think that's going to be the big winner. Right now it's wind, but solar is going to be a very, very big winner. Now, as we make our cities smarter, we need to use technologies in a more unique way. We need to leverage the data that technology provides for us. One of the ways we see that happening is through the deployment of devices in our environments for all sorts of things, from the most basic act of counting cars, which is what cities do. Having worked in a city for almost a decade, I know how important that is, to being able to detect the quality of air, to noise, and even for traffic management, and so much more. We're going to see sensors proliferate our urban landscapes. Overall, IoT devices, these connected devices, the Internet of Things devices, we're going to see a massive growth in the deployment of these, not just in cities, but in our homes, to create smart homes, in our factories, in our airports and hospitals and stadiums and so much more. But it turns out that the largest deployments of IoT connected devices are in our cities. About 20% of the IoT marketplace right now is urban based. And just look at these numbers. Today, we've deployed, we think, as an estimate, about 42 billion, a billion with a B, IoT devices. And just in the next 3 years, or less than 3 years now, because we're already into almost April of 2022, by 2025, we get up to 75 billion connected devices. That's 30 billion more, which just if you kind of round it off, it's about 1 billion new devices being introduced to our world every single year. Excuse me, every single month, right? Every single month, 1 billion new devices. That's a lot of hardware. That's a lot of software. That's a lot of data. That's a lot of services and maintenance and operations. All of that is going to generate and is generating good paying jobs for smart, motivated people. And it's also generating a need for new innovation and new startups. Here, for example, is some of the work that my team and I did. This is really personal to me. We started deploying several years ago sensors into the city that I was helping to lead. These sensors on this light post here were for detecting whether a parking space was empty or full. And so we would collect that data with a little camera, and then we would send it into the cloud, where it then could be consumed by all sorts of applications that would help people with traffic management. So we did a lot of experimentation. We could see very early on the benefits of the sensorization of our urban environments. But it's much broader than this as we begin to deploy all sorts of digital solutions that are powered by connectivity, by small, cheap sensors, by data, and the whole range of digital infrastructure and all of the stacks above it, everything from signage to having a smarter electrical grid system, finding parking spaces, and of course, dealing with all our waste, dealing with waste in a much more effective way. For example, those smart trash cans you see there in the bottom right, well, isn't it better to pick up trash when the trash cans are full, right, rather than when they're empty. That's a much better use of resources than sending trucks around to pick up trash when there's nothing there, or to have the trash can overflow and create a challenge for the cleanliness of our cities and attracting rodents as well, which are often a problem in so many of our cities. So these connected things, putting these sensors and connecting them to the internet, it's going to generate, in addition to the digital transformation, trillions of dollars in device revenues. And you can see here, again, today we're 22, we're at about $500 billion of opportunity, and that's, by 2024 almost doubles and almost triples then by 2025, a $1.6 trillion opportunity, of which 20% of that, at least 20% of it, is in the urban marketplace. So smart cities are going to be one of the major drivers of IoT innovation and IoT opportunity. Now, in my talk today, I wanted to talk about how we're in a period of transformation, and in particular, I wanted to identify maybe what will be the most important transformation of our urban environment over the next few decades. In fact, analysts say self-driving vehicles will be the most important technology of the first 50 years of the 21st century, right? That's a pretty bold statement to make. And I'm very much starting to believe this based on the research I'm seeing and also my own experiences of traveling in some self-driving vehicles. Some economists say this could be one of the largest economic booms actually in the history of humanity, as we transition from humans driving cars to computers driving vehicles around our community. So why do I say that? Well, let's look at some of the dynamics at play here. Well, our infrastructure is going to change, right? We don't need to have traffic signals. I imagine a world in a not too distant future where cities will start to take down the traffic lights. Those are for humans, not for cars, right? We will see the end of signage. Again, autonomous vehicles don't need signs. Those are for humans. We'll see the end of lanes. You don't have to have lanes when cars negotiate around each other more optimally. And probably the most distinctive thing, and this is really exaggerated in the American context, but many societies around the world have adopted this in the 20th century, is the grid system, right? This urban planning, particularly in the central business districts and the what we call the downtown areas. We've built this grid system that was supposed to optimize for traffic and moving people and goods around the place. In fact, it's just become a frustration, and it's really limited the ability for city planners to think in totally new ways about how you might build and design a city. So when cars drive themselves, we can think very differently about the role of roads and how that works. Today, our cities, by the way, many of our cities, 60% of the land use is for vehicles. 60%, not for people, not for buildings, but for cars, trucks, and motorcycles are all for, particularly for the four-wheeled or more vehicles are for them, put aside for them. That's a terrible use of land. But in a self-driving world, maybe we don't need parking spaces, multi-story parking lots and all the other facilities that support us and our human driving car future. These cars also, by the way, will be electric. We are within just a few decades of seeing the end of the combustion engine. The combustion engine is over, ladies and gentlemen. And a child born today will likely never own a car and never will have a driver's license, right? So if you've just had a baby or somebody who's just had a baby, that child may never know the joys of driving a car unless, of course, they want to drive a car on the weekend. People always ask me, won't we miss driving? Well, if you do miss it, you can go to a place on the weekend and you can drive a car and go crazy, but not on the streets. The streets will be all autonomous vehicles. So we will see this transition happen. And when it begins to happen, it's going to happen very, very fast. And it will generate a new ecosystem. So let me kind of just have you think about this for a moment. When Steve Jobs walked on stage about 13 years ago to announce the iPhone, it was a great moment. I watched it live. And you can watch it on YouTube, and I recommend it. It's about 11 minutes of just pure joy and inspiration. And he talks about this, this device that's a phone and a music player, and it's on the internet, and it's also for navigation. And then he shows a few apps, right, that Apple had built and some other people in his tight ecosystem had built. And then it was over, and people were excited, and they went out and bought iPhones. And, over the last 13 years now or so, 14 years, they've bought billions of phones. What we didn't anticipate was the emergence of an apps economy. All the millions of new apps. There are literally millions of original apps in the Apple App Store, as there are, of course, in the Android App Store as well. Those did not exist the year before or the month before the iPhone was announced. And those apps have created millions and millions of jobs and new industries and new innovation and new ideas. And they've literally changed the way so many of us live our lives, every aspect of our lives, our work, our play, and how we live at home and how we get information, literally transformed it. I ask you to think about that because the question then I'm going to pose to you is, as we think about a future of vehicles that drive themselves, and they may not look like the cars do today, but they'll look like, there'll be something that obviously can bring humans and products around the place. What will be the apps economy for a self-driving vehicle world, an autonomous vehicle world? What are the millions of new solutions that will be built that we can't even think about, the same way as we didn't even think about them the month before the iPhone was released? I think this is first of all, the great unknown, but also the great multi-trillion-dollar opportunities. Now, people often say to me as I'm giving this presentation, they'll ask, well, aren't self-driving vehicles when are they going to happen? 10 years from now or 15 years? And I always have to say and smile, they're happening right now. Self-driving vehicles are on the roads of cities around the world. This particular example, this picture here, is the Waymo service, a spin-off from Google, that operates in the American city of Phoenix in Arizona. And you can call up this car on your phone, just like you do with Uber or Careem or Grab, one of those services. And it'll come and get you and bring you to your destination anywhere in the city without a driver. It is fully autonomous. There is the excuses that self-driving cars will have problems with unusual situations or road construction or there will be accidents. No, we've actually figured it all out already. We're ahead of this thing. We won't eliminate accidents and problems entirely, but today 1.3 million people are killed in car accidents. About 50 million people suffer injuries in cars. That number is going to drop phenomenally. It's going to drop. Won't be to zero, but it will drop. And you see self-driving vehicles on the campus of universities and industrial parks already. Here's a little bus running on the campus of the Saudi Telecom Corporation in Riyadh in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Workers can get between buildings by hopping on a self-driving vehicle. Our cities will have new transportation and new mechanisms for moving products and services and people. The drones are coming. The drones are coming. They are coming not only in the sky, but they're going to happen on the street. This is almost like another metaphor of what it felt like 6 months before we had smartphones, and then 6 months after we had smartphones. We always ask the question now, how did we live without smartphones? I don't know how we ever lived without smartphones, but it wasn't so long ago, right? 14, 15 years ago. And now today we take it for granted, almost, more people have smartphones and cell phones than there is internet connectivity in the world. They are so popular as a personal device. The drones are coming, and so one day, before we know it, there'll be drones flying down streets and across fields and into our buildings and into our neighborhoods to drop all sorts of products off, and it'll happen at scale. And here in the United States, UPS, FedEx, and Amazon have all already been licensed, and they're in the experimental phase. So it's only a matter now of months, maybe a year or more at best before we start to see deliveries coming by drones. And it'll happen not just in the sky, but on the ground. I was just invited to speak just a few months ago at the Ohio State University, one of the largest universities in the United States, up in Columbus, the city of Columbus, Ohio, and it's a beautiful large campus with a variety of buildings and very much for people to walk and to cycle, and many big beautiful trees and park areas. And when I was there I was teaching a couple of master classes. As I walked around, I noticed these little drones on the street, many of them all going about their business, delivering all manner of papers and meals and whatever things people had requested, all autonomously. And some of them were in packs, which was interesting, like wolf packs. And then they had resting areas where they would just sit temporarily while not being used. So to see it with my own eyes validated the notion that these are going to come in a very big way to our communities. So again, I spent some time today telling you about the context by which there are economic drivers here. We often focus on the good aspects of building smart cities, doing good things to improve education and healthcare and air quality and access to water and economic opportunities with innovation districts. And we're really focused on that. But we shouldn't lose sight that a very important incentive in free open economies is to have economic incentives. And we don't talk about that enough. And there is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity here. In fact, the positive impact of smart city technologies is anticipated to be more than $20 trillion in economic development over the next decade around the world. And that's from ABI research. So the activities that we do, just by putting in place smart city services and capabilities in our communities, we have the potential now to generate $20 trillion in economic development. So this is going to be and is the century of cities, the 21st century. Some people have said that building great cities is going to be the grand challenge of the 21st century, and I can't help thinking that thesis is correct. All of us here talking, but also probably most of you watching, are already in that mindset. You already have recognized that if we're going to have a great future, if we're going to have more opportunity, if we're going to have a better quality of life, access to healthcare, access to opportunities, access to good education, a cleaner environment, a healthier planet, a way to combat the climate crisis and create more equality and more inclusion, we're going to have to work hard at it inside our cities every single day. And when we do it right, the benefits will be fantastic. Both the health and just the overall quality of life will increase, but the economics will also increase, generating jobs and more revenue for developing the kinds of services and social support systems that our cities so desperately need. So I come back to the question I asked you right at the beginning, and I hope you've been thinking about it, and you'll think about it more, right? I've sort of given you this tease at the possibilities, that not only can you do this great work, but you can have a great job doing it, and you can create a business doing it, and you can work for a business doing it, right? So what can you do? I ask you again, what can you do to create better and more sustainable communities. And I'm looking at you. So before I hand it back to our great hosts and end my presentation today, I did want to do just a little bit of a plug for some of my books that I've written on this topic. If you enjoyed what I had to say and want to learn more, I have documented a lot of this and more. I've built basically the playbook to build smarter, more sustainable communities. You can get this book anywhere, and there certainly is references to IEEE in there, so I don't think I'm too much, of course, to say that. It's a way that I've been able to socialize even some of the great work that IEEE is doing in this work. And you know, I wrote a kids book. I wrote a couple of kids books because I believe that we have to get children excited about the future and optimistic about the future and thinking creatively, whilst also having fun, right? Also having fun and learning. So I wrote a kids book there on the right-hand side. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm going to stick around here for a little while to be able to answer